Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast where the thinkers in freight. We are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and I'm your host, Blythe Milligan. And we've got another great episode for y'all today. We are live in Austin, Texas at the TMSA Elevate conference. And we've got Mia Mazal on the show. It's a long time been wanting to get her on the show. So she just co-founded a new company called Talento, and we are going to hear all about it.
Super excited. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking. You just got off the plane. You just got into town, and she's sitting down. She's doing interviews. So
yeah, it's back to back. The grind never stops.
That's right.
Here we are, but I enjoy it though. It's the rush of life.
So I guess maybe let's start off where you started off with logistics, because. Did you come from a logistics background? Like, did you fall into it? Like a lot of people, I fell into it accidentally.
Definitely. Yeah, so I was studying human development, family sciences, finishing up my master's, and then I got a random phone call to go and move to Colombia and start this new company, and I'm like, what? Me? Why? Who? What? When? Where? Why? So kind of in that process, it basically took about 4 weeks where they had called me in November, and by the end of December, I had said, you know what? I want to move. Like, I want to try this thing out. And all I knew is that it took a lot of learning. Like, it meant being in the financial role, being in the operational role, being in sales and marketing and everything. And I love learning. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this thing. So I jumped on a plane, moved to Colombia, and then put my master's on a leave of absence.
Oh, wow.
And never ended up finishing that, which I mentioned that because I actually just finished it about 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say, I saw your LinkedIn post that you, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So kind of a full circle moment, but I really took like a turn out of that, right? I stopped working in education and I just jumped in the logistics and the nearshoring front and just dove in. And then after being in Colombia for 1 year, I went to Florida for a year because that's kind of the middle ground between Colombia and all of my customers, these events, those kinds of things. And then I've been with them ever since. Well, kind of in the industry ever since. And then, the end of S-Works came, Talento came along, and that's kind of the beginning parts of how I joined the industry.
And so how did you, because I think that being able to co-found Talento was the key to that, from just based on listening to your episode on Think Freight.
Yeah.
He was talking about, or you guys were both talking about, how your willingness to learn in all of those different areas with SWORKS played a key role in like helping with Talento and getting it off the ground quickly.
Definitely.
Tell me about that transition. I mean, I imagine.
It was crazy.
I've been a part of like a company closing down, and it was absolutely traumatic and.
Traumatic to say the least.
But tell us about it. Tell us about your trauma.
Sure. Therapy. Well, no, seriously, on the personal side, it was a lot. I wasn't expecting it. Like, I loved what I did or what I was doing, and I was stable, I was comfortable, and I wasn't expecting anything to change. So when I got that call that it was just like, hey, like, mom and dad aren't finding that middle ground anymore kind of thing, we need to choose a side. Like, it was like out of left field for me. I felt some, tension in some items, but nothing to the degree of like, we're going to potentially close this company. And also, like, December was the best month we had ever hit in all of S-Works too. So it was like, I'm at my peak. I'm literally at the peak, and now we're going to fall. So emotionally, it took a huge toll on me. And I also didn't want to make a decision just because someone forced me to make a decision. So I took that time to really understand, like, what is it that Mia wants? Like, do I want to go back to what I was doing and studying? Do I want to continue in this industry? Do I want to co-found a company, or do I want to be a teacher? Like, I don't know. So luckily, during those 3 days, I actually was at SMC3. 3 days. I was at SMC3, the conference, in the beginning of January, and I was reminded that I absolutely love what I do. I love the people that I get to interact with. I love the things that I get to do. I love the processes. I love the learning. So I said, you know what? Let's do this thing. Like, let's give it a shot. I had basically almost 3 years at S-Works where I got to do it for somebody else. And I had started, like I mentioned, in marketing and sales. I did the invoicing. I was doing the billing. I was paying the team, the custodians that were coming into the office. It was just all these random little things that help you learn how to build a company later. And also I was very fortunate to already come in with trust. The trust from the people and the trust from the customers. So when S-Works was kind of closing, they immediately came over. I didn't have to, hound anybody or, negotiate or try to convince. It was just very easy. A phone call, hey, this is what's going on. Cool, I believe in your vision. Let's go with it, Mia. And so it was an incredibly reassuring moment. So I took what was really traumatic, but looked at the positives of it, of wow, everybody around me thinks that I can do it. I think that I can do it. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, you had to come up with reevaluate your entire life in like 3 days.
Yes, basically. And in all that,
That's not easy.
No, you want to build a new company, what are you going to name it? Talento? Okay, cool, let's do it. Like it kind of is like a joke when you think of it like that, but it really did happen just like that, like in literally 72 hours.
Wow. And so what, if anything, did you have to, I imagine you didn't have to really start over. Maybe it was just a lot of paperwork that you have to do, manual like admin stuff.
Yes and no. So for the most part, operations stayed the same, but we did have some change on the administration side. So for the most part, we didn't have the same sellers, we didn't have the same marketing team, we didn't have the same recruiters and operational. So although we had maybe like the skeleton and the boots and we still had some revenue because the customers and the operations are running as normal, I had to train up all the new account managers and the recruiters, and not to learn how to do the process, but how we do our process, and build out Talento's new roles. So maybe S-Works did it this way, but Talento is going to do it this way. So in the beginning, I was kind of full on training all of admin and setting up the banks in Colombia and setting up the banks in the US and AP and AR and all these things that I didn't have to touch, but now I did have to touch. So, but the fortunate piece was that I have some really great team members. So I was able to really delegate and, trust in that those people were going to handle their areas, and I could focus on sales and marketing and keep making sure that the business is growing, so then I can continue to bring on more people and, build that cycle of growing a business.
Wow, so you had to make all of those decisions fairly quickly, but you also had I guess the experience to know like which ones were working and which ones didn't. So it was almost like a clean slate, but you still got some money in the bank to work with a little.
Yeah, yes and no. It was like, yes. It was tricky because for example, we still had the same CRM, but we now have a different entity. So even though you have the workflow built, if you don't have the right, integrations or the right cells formatted, then it doesn't actually work. So it was like, you have it, but you really don't have it. I wasn't getting the alerts from my CRM, or when I was getting a new email, I switched everything from Google to Teams and Microsoft. So it's like, there's a huge learning curve. One of my biggest pains is just accessing Outlook, which should be the easiest thing, and it's one of the most complicated. So it's those little barriers or those little hiccups that I didn't expect are really cumbersome, as opposed to the bigger ones that I thought I need an HR system now. That was easy to find, to vet, and to implement. But once you have it, the little things of I want to send out birthday memos now, and I can't configure this system with this system. Those little things that you would think would be so easy are the biggest and the hardest ones.
So let's talk a little bit about what Talento does, because I think that you've been able to focus on what has worked with S-Works in the past, and then kind of refine it moving into Talento, and maybe expanding some of the things that you might have thought about doing before, but maybe didn't have the bandwidth to do it. So give us a baseline of what Talento provides, and then how you kind of think about the future.
So talent management is kind of the basis of what we were providing before for supply chain specifically, and we're continuing to provide that. But now with Talento, we also, in all this change, started partnering with a team of developers that have been working in supply chain and healthcare for a couple of years now in Colombia. So now we actually brought them on as an allied partner that we use for our customers, in the sense of, when you come in and I look at your problems and your needs, I'm not just looking to see how I solve it with people or with talent, I'm looking to see if maybe I can provide you some AI or some business intelligence as well. So dashboards, anything to do with dashboards, and making sure that your data and your information is in a way that's actionable, that you can actually use it, and crossing that between multiple platforms, because I know that brokerages, for example, have green screens and DAT and their TMS and their CRM and this, that, and the third, and it's a million things. So to be able to get that in one place is great. And then the other piece is AI, and everyone talks about these agents and these bots and those kinds of things. So we use it in the voice languaging processing and vision processing. So for example, cleaning up your emails, and let's say you have an Outlook accounting email, and splitting it up based off the right individuals, or something like a bot on your website, where maybe it's helping you answer questions and inbound leads, and it's not replacing a human, but now instead of having 5 sales reps staffed 24/7 to answer your website questionnaires, you have an AI agent and 1 sales rep that will handle that
right? So it's just kind of looking at the problem a little bit differently is now what Talento is doing. But I do want to emphasize that we do want to focus on supply chain and not be, okay at everything, but really good at one thing.
And I think that that's so important in today's age where AI can be highly, highly specialized in like the agents or the bots area, but then having that person can almost be like the conductor of the orchestra, of like the agent orchestra, or like your automations or just solving those different problems. But I think the first thing that you have to know is like, what are your numbers? What are you trying to hit? What are your KPIs? And getting all that information into one. So I think that's the super interesting attack plan, is to have that dashboard of knowledge and then helping them to kind of figure out where to plug and play with these different solutions.
And it's like a one-stop shop idea, it's pretty inclusive. Like you don't have to come to Mia to ask her about this and then go to Maya to ask her about, no, Mia can tell you that, hey, maybe I can't help you with this part, but I know Maya can, and I can do that vetting for them. And so I mentioned the word ecosystem a lot. I want to be that kind of partner or that person that you believe in and trust that will already do that vetting for you and understands the lay of the field. So again, when you come and you ask me about a specific issue, if I can't help you, I hope that I can guide you to somebody that can help you, because I can't do everything, and I'm not gonna have the most renowned AI bots, because that is not my strength. The reason that I bring on that partnership is to complement what we have going on, not to replace what we have going on.
Absolutely. So how do you, especially being on the front lines of this, from like a talent management standpoint, how do you see the current market of supply chain roles, and then how do you see that evolving?
In many ways. In many ways.
How much time you got?
See, I think the problem is that supply chain as a whole, supply chain roles is very, very broad, right? And so it depends where we're looking in that. But one area in specific that I see a lot of potential is in the pricing department, and that kind of, it's technically back office, but people don't really think of it as back office because it's kind of a middle ground of like your sales and your finance team. But we've been working with a lot of individuals, providing them data developers, Power BI or Tableau engineers, things of that nature, where you're saving tremendous amount of money. You're finding bilingual talent, and they come with that supply chain expertise. So they don't just know the programming or the tech, but they also understand the life cycle of a load. And so it just makes it that much easier to implement. So that's an area where I feel like many don't go towards nearshoring or offshoring for that kind of pricing piece, because they also don't think that sometimes we have a limited mindset where we think, hey, offshoring and back office is just for customer service or just answering the phone. And the reality is people are people and we're intelligent everywhere. And so you can find a killer pricing analyst or pricing engineer in LATAM, just like you can find one in the US. So I don't know if that directly answered your question, but I think there's a huge future there.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the conductor mindset of, if you're running a business, and especially in the age of AI, I'm a writer at heart, but I can use AI to help me create graphics, and I can use it as a tool to help me in other areas where I'm weak, where it might, I'm not gonna not hire a designer in the future, but I can at least get them some concept art that's out of my brain and into their hands so they can have something to work with.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of maybe what you're building with Talento, is helping these supply chain roles be able to expand in other areas, or maybe see things, maybe be that like flashlight in the dark for them.
Yes, and try it out, exactly, because AI is such a big buzzword, and it's so scary, and you can bring on a whole team, and you're gonna need, a QA analyst and a project manager to even guide it, then you need your developer, then your full stack and this and that, and now you just hired 8 employees for a project that you only need for 3 months. And so sometimes I think that people are a little bit scary, they're a little scared to even try it, because 1, they don't understand it, and 2, they don't know where to start. So being able to kind of give them that, like, hey, here's a little window of like, look, we're not gonna give you the most renowned, the most sophisticated AI, but we're gonna dumb it down in a way that it is so practical and easy and just like, wow, why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't I do this before? And that's what I want them to feel, like, that was so easy, like I should have done this a long time ago.
I love that approach, because I think for just speaking from like personal experience, like I know I am weak in certain areas, and I know it's like, okay, I just need to like spend a weekend and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and just figure it out for myself, or I try to build my own AI agent or something, and it to do that, to build it and to teach it is taking me significantly longer than to just do the damn thing myself. And so I think that that's interesting to have somebody kind of hold your hand through that process. So I think for a lot of folks, maybe they've tried, you know, the ChatGPTs of the world and maybe tried building an agent and just failed at it and just went back to doing this. I'm speaking for myself.
But it's true because it's not easy, you know, and there is no roadmap. And I think also it happens to me, at least in nearshoring or offshoring, some customers just, they don't want to invest time in talking with you because they think that you just are going to give them and produce a task or a project. But the reality is that we're hiring full-time employees. And so we are here to be a partner, you know, and help you manage your employees. So if you want that, you know, hand-holding of like, let's look at your processes, you know, let's bring the developers, let's take a look at your tech stack, like, let's recommend to you where we can help you, that's where we thrive. But not everybody wants that. Some people, they know exactly what they want. I want 5 dispatchers tomorrow, you know, and this is as clear as day. But some individuals, and particularly those small to mid-sized businesses I see that like are still kind of figuring out their roadmap or are trying to survive. And that's I think where we come in, because we are willing to put in that extra effort, that extra mile, even though it takes me maybe an extra hour, but now you're 10 times happier and the relationship is gonna last that much longer and it's gonna be that much more effective.
And so do you start off from the talent aspect, or you almost start off as like a consultancy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, so right now I'm very much shifting my gears to almost like, let's have a conversation, let's consult. Like, what are your interests, what are your needs? And then do you wanna talk about your needs that you've identified, or do you wanna talk about the needs that I've identified for you? And then from there, shake it out and see. But ideally, the proposal is typically like inclusive with both sides, but talent management will always be that forefront. You know, when I'm looking at a customer and understanding their needs, I'm gonna think of the labor and the talent, but I'm now, as I'm becoming more of an expert on the AI and the tech piece, I definitely incorporate that more and more. And so I'm making sure that some other members of my team are experts in that space where maybe I lack, because I don't have the time, unfortunately, to watch a million YouTube videos, even though I would love to. And although every day I try to get at least 1% better, I'm not as tech savvy as, you know, my partners, and that's why I bring them onto the calls as well. And so even just offering that, like, hey, you can have 15 minutes with our developers and you can ask them whatever you want. At least for me, I see a huge value in just having a conversation, and then I can take that information and do whatever I want with it.
And I think too, you hit on an important note, is just having the conversation. Sometimes people realize how much knowledge base and work is involved in doing a skill that they think that they can learn in a weekend on YouTube, like myself. But then you can take advantage of that talent, not take advantage of them, but utilize that talent in order to expedite your own success.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. I see like in marketing, for example, where people think marketing is just designing a pretty picture. It's not. And I'll have so many people, for example, they'll ask me for, you know, support on their website, and they're like, yeah, but I have a website and it looks great. And I'm like, all right, but let's take a look here, you know, and simple things, right? Simple things like keywords, right, or SEO, and like maybe someone will throw out to you like SEO as a buzzword, and they have no idea what that means, or how do you even like incorporate that into your website? And so they'll come and they'll say, you know, I already have that done. Like I just want this, and that's where I get a little frustrated, but also where I think that it's important, because I'm very transparent, and I'll tell them, hey, look, I know you don't want to hear this, and I know that you're asking for this, but if I give you that right now, you're gonna fail. You're gonna get nothing out of it, and I'm gonna fail as well. So we're not gonna do that. So here's your option, and if you're ready to listen, we could talk about it. And to be honest, not everyone's ready to listen, but not everyone's ready to be a customer for us either. You know, not everyone's the right match.
Yeah, and that's a good way, or a good mindset, especially for you. Like early on, I feel like you're able to have these conversations from a level of confidence versus maybe somebody who would be a little bit more inexperienced or would just take the business just for the sake of taking the business.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I've been there, done that, you know? We've all been there.
You learned the lesson one way or another.
For sure. And specifically, like as a younger girl, like I was very naive in the sense like, okay, if somebody doesn't treat me so great, like I still need to like talk to them to go get that business. And now I'm so past that mindset, thank God. And I'm the complete opposite, where I will tell you like, like, no, maybe sometimes a little too quickly. I'll be like, oh, go talk to my friend. And then I'm like, wait, no, actually, I could help you as well. But I think that that's important, to be honest and clear and not overshoot, but also in those moments where you want to like guinea pig something out, just tell them, let them know, because some people do really like that personalized, tailored kind of like relationship, and some people would prefer, again, the box cutter, so to each their own.
Yeah, for sure. And you brought it up, especially from like the marketing standpoint. How do you, I guess, think about your marketing from like a personal brand standpoint versus your company brand? Because that's something I personally struggle with. Is like, how do I, where's the line? And is it all just blurry?
It's super blurry. It's hard. I try, and I think that a business isn't a business until you can sell through the business and not the person, the people. And I think that's somewhere where S-Works lacked, because at the end of the day, why was I able to build Talento? Because all the customers had been brought in by myself and followed me over, and so that's a failure on the business side, but a win on mine, right? So I don't want Talento to be the same way, where if I leave Talento, there is no Talento. That's a problem. So it is a very fine line, because I don't want to lose the traction that I've built, and I also think that people buy from people. But I think that I need to have other individuals on my team that are also building their brand and making sure that as they build their personal brand, they're including Talento in their system, like in their ecosystem, right? So like when Thomas is posting about Think Fright and he's posting about being Thomas, like you'll see some posts about Talento as well. And I like it, I prefer it that way, because I would rather it be through a genuine person that you get to know. Yes. You get to know Thomas as Thomas, not Talento, oh, here's one of Talento's sales reps. Like that's just not how it works for me. But I do, and I am investing more and more on Talento's page directly on LinkedIn and trying to put some familiar faces on there. So instead of me posting on mine and then Talento reposting, I'm having Talento post, and then I'll kind of interact for my personal.
No, that makes a ton of sense, because when I started Cargo Rex in December, well, we went public with it in early February, it was a very conscious decision that like, obviously the podcast is me.
Yeah.
And it's never, if I leave it, the podcast is probably done. But for Cargo Rex, like it has to be something that is independent, where the stories are about the employee or the companies that are making waves in this industry, not, me being the face of it. So it's very like conscious effort, but you still got to use, you still got to use your bread and butter a little bit to get the name out there initially, and then make that transition. And
of course, and I think the other piece there is partnerships, right? Like when you do partnerships, like you're not doing it with John from Papa John's. Like, no, you're doing it with that company. Right. And so there is like a profile behind, the company. Like Truck Stop does a really good job, I think, on LinkedIn with their commenting, and like you feel like you're talking to Mr. Truck Stop, you know what I mean? And so like that's great, because you want to interact back with that person, thinking that there's a human behind it, rather like, just a robot or a creep.
Or like the LinkedIn AI generated comments or something like that. No one wants to talk with that.
LinkedIn blocked me once thinking that I was AI on my birthday because I got so many messages and I was responding, and they blocked me for a couple of hours. I had to report it.
They put you on a timeout?
Yeah, they did. They were like, we think that you're using AI for outreaching and this is against our rules. I said, they were wishing me happy birthday. But it happens.
So, well, related note, not kind of related note, but who's doing a good job in marketing that you see on LinkedIn?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I think that the Broker Carrier Summit does a great job, and again, looping back to the partnerships, like those partnerships announcements I think are great. Danielle Spinelli, she does a great job as well for herself personally and for the business. She does a great job, I think, at balancing the two sides. And then Truck Stop, as I just mentioned, I think they do a great job through their company page. I actually don't know any of their sellers. Like I don't see any like branding through any of their reps. And so I think it's an interesting angle to see how the company has been able to build that relationship, but maybe not so much the people. So I don't know.
And also the freedom, I think, that they give Truck Stop to be able to post and be funny and have that freedom without, kind of feeling like you're going to get in trouble.
HR is going to call you.
And I think a lot of folks with their personal brand, they also feel that level of fear because they'll start posting and then a company representative will come to them and be like, what, are you trying to leave? Like, are you trying to get more love than the company? They have such a, a backwards mindset of thinking about these things.
Right, or even like the post itself. You know, I've been in situations where they'll say like, oh, this content doesn't seem to be professional, or maybe that photo, like there's a selfie, it has nothing to do with anything. Like, why are you posting it? And I'm like, okay, like
You get comments like that?
Oh, I've been told some things like that. Yes, for sure. Yeah. So I'm like, let's take a step back.
All of the audacity.
Yeah. Let's think about this. You know, like let's zoom out for a second. Like I understand like Facebook or LinkedIn is not Facebook. You know, they're very different things, but there's boundaries and
LinkedIn
there's
rewards
lines.
selfies.
LinkedIn rewards selfies. And LinkedIn is an algorithm. So LinkedIn, what it wants is for you to waste time. And so I went to a LinkedIn workshop and I spent 3 hours there and I learned so much. And so I always repeat this and I say, what they want is you to waste time. So if I go to your page and I'm wasting time because I'm watching your videos, then LinkedIn is gonna reward you and put your videos on more people's feeds. But if I go to your video and I just swipe right past it because I didn't feel like looking at it today, now it's not gonna show it on Rob's feed.
Yep.
And so every single second, like it's like Instagram, you just think that scrolling through means nothing. No, scrolling through, every single scroll means something, exactly.
Well, Charlie Safro calls it the selfie, the selfie reset. Ooh. That if she has certain posts that like just don't pop off for whatever reason, she'll do a selfie plus a text post because people miss the text matters. You can't just post a selfie without actual text or a picture of yourself or whatever. Like selfies, I guess, are maybe subjective. Like, whatever. The text matters, people.
It does.
But Charlie's talked about how she'll do a selfie reset and it will reset her feed. And so whenever she does that, then her next post and the next post and the next post gets way more love than the dud. That if you were to just keep the dud and keep post, I'm just gonna post out of it. It doesn't work that way.
She's so right, though. I didn't realize it, that's what it was called, but I do that. Because I will try to do some like texts or some polls or something different, and I realize like it weans down, and then I'm like, okay, let's do another selfie with something relevant, you know, and then it picks back up. But to your point, you know, there is some pictures that have absolutely no comments or engagement, and that got me nothing. That like, sure, there was 200 likes on that selfie, but that was worth nothing.
Right.
But the post next to it that had 50 likes, but 10 comments, that means so much more because those comments have actual truth and a person behind them, and there's engagement. And so what I recommend as well is sending that post with their comment directly to that person. So instead of me responding to Rob in the comment on my post, I'm gonna send him my post and respond to him in our DMs. So now I'm building a direct conversation with us, a private conversation for us to continue.
So interesting. I would have, because I've heard, you know, with like the LinkedIn algorithm scoring that they really value the replies, especially within like the first couple of hours.
30 minutes.
The first 30 minutes you post are the most important time. So respond to any comments in those first 30 minutes. But after that, don't respond to them. Just send it to them.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
The LinkedIn workshop that I did, taught me a lot.
Okay, so tell us what else you learned. LinkedIn masterclass.
Webinars. So for every webinar, every speaker that's on a webinar, you get 1,000 invite credits. And so let's say there's 3 people on the webinar, that's 3,000 per week. So if you're gonna, you know, say that I'm doing a webinar in 3 weeks from now with Blythe, then that's now 1,000 credits each. For 3 weeks, that's 6,000 credits. And the actual turnaround is higher, not for the attendees, but those that didn't attend. So they recommend the same thing, where after the webinar closes, you send that event invite to them, like as a direct message, and you say, hey, you didn't get a chance to make it, let's catch up so I can share what we talked about and you missed. And supposedly, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the conversion is higher for those that didn't attend than those that actually attended.
And are these like live videos through?
Live webinars on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can just do like a live webinar for however long. And typically for a lead to convert on LinkedIn, they say it's 45 minutes they need to spend on your profile. So I recommend a 45-minute webinar.
Whoa, so 45-minute webinars, and then whoever did it, are you doing anything with the people that did attend, or they're getting the content, obviously?
You want to give them the content. So the idea they gave us was that you want to talk on the webinar like generic, but give something secret at the end, you know, like maybe one of these tips, like you give this at the very end and you give it on a worksheet or like a piece of paper. So it's like stay till the end to download that. So it gives somebody like a way for them to go on a landing page and for you to get their information. Because LinkedIn will count against you if you take anybody off of LinkedIn. So if you have a URL in your post, in your bio, anywhere, they will count again. If you send a URL in a LinkedIn DM and I click that URL, and now I'm off of LinkedIn, it's gonna count against you.
So what are you supposed to do? What's the point of using LinkedIn?
So the only way that you can have them go off of LinkedIn without flagging you is if you pay for LinkedIn Premium, and you can have a special button, and it says, click or see my website, like under your name, and when you click a post, some people will have a button that says, see my website.
So Premium is worth it in that regard.
It's the only way.
Because I was part of their podcast academy, and I got access to Premium, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna pay for this after this is over. Like, it's not worth it. But now, kind of sounds like it's probably worth it.
I don't currently pay for it because I'm just waiting to pull that trigger since like we've transitioned. But it is like you get like brownie points for paying more, and they're gonna count against you less.
God, it's so expensive. It's like $100 a month.
It is, and they have a monopoly. You know, like they really have control of this professional world.
That's true. Ugh. So and I mean, it sounds like a necessary evil too. But you're also reaching your target audience, and if you're spending all this time, I mean, I spend a lot of time, too much time on X, and I'm not getting any kind of perks or benefits like that.
See, I don't use X. I've tried to like be a LinkedIn guru and really hone in on there, but the problem is also that these algorithms change all the time, and it's nothing that they publish. So you need to keep up, watch your multiple YouTube videos every weekend, and always know what's going on. It's tricky.
How did they talk anything about like short form video, about what's working well or what's not working?
They did talk a little bit about short form videos, saying how that was a trend that was popping up, but there's some conflict with Instagram and fighting LinkedIn on that formatting. So likely it's not gonna last for a very long time is what they were expecting. And if you see already, it's slowed down.
The short form video?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for LinkedIn, and now it's popping off on YouTube now, the little reels that you can do.
Oh, the shorts, yeah. We get really great engagement on shorts, but LinkedIn videos, we've recently switched from a vertical format to the horizontal format just to kind of just change it up and just see, and it's working a lot better on X and LinkedIn, the horizontal format versus, I think vertical format, maybe people are just so used to seeing it.
Well, they're just going through it way too fast. Yeah. They are using it like TikTok, and the problem is that LinkedIn will count that against you. So it's not working for the people that are actually posting.
What about like reposts? Does that work or play a factor at all?
He didn't talk anything about repost. No, so I really don't think it does much.
Hopefully it doesn't ding me.
But now
that's essentially what I do, and so I'm getting like a LinkedIn masterclass right now.
Well, I mean, if you're reposting a lot and people are scrolling past it and not engaging, it's dinging against you. Yeah. But there's many different things. I mean, different kinds of posts, he said that don't really do too much. Your bio itself doesn't really change anything as well. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can consider, but you just have to be always on top of it. You know, what's new, what's changing.
What about outside of social media? Are there any other, or staying with social media for a minute, are there any other platforms that you're finding like people preach on like Facebook groups, and I'm like, I would rather take a drill to my temple.
Yeah, no, I don't use Facebook. Nope.
I just have no interest, so it's tough for me to spend any time there.
Yeah, I've been in like random like groups, like I think there's one called like the Logistics War Room, and just like
spam. It's all spam.
Or Clutch is an organization. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Clutch.
I don't know much about Clutch, and I don't want to speak on it incorrectly, but from my understanding, it's almost like a marketplace, like where you go on there and you look for, hey, I need a staffing solution. Where do I go to? And it kind of gives you options. We've had some leads come in through Clutch, which was surprising. Yeah, just random. But no, for us, it's been referrals, like just word of mouth and just knowing people and referring through people. I played the long game, and so some of my conversations and relationships from TMSA 3 years ago are just now turning around and signing, but they're signing with, quotes of 5+ heads because they have been talking to me for years and they're finally ready. So I think timing's everything, but my point with the referrals is that customer testimonials, that kind of marketing, which Broker Carrier Summit does really well at, a couple of other companies out there do really good customer testimonials. That is really powerful.
Yeah, that you're the second person now, and because we're doing a few interviews today, you're the second person now to talk about the power of referrals. And in a world, I think, where people are just inundated with cold calls and emails, I think referrals are a great way to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our KPIs, like for our sales reps, like for myself and for Thomas. If we're not going to convert just through emailing and cold calling, but we're converting through referrals, then every single week I want you to reach out to your best friends and have some meetings with your best friends and ask them to give you one introduction. That's it.
What do you think is one of the missing pieces of like marketing or sales advice that a lot of freight companies don't follow?
I think that a lot of us are very old school in this industry, and so they just don't want to touch social media besides what they're already on, like Facebook. Or I also think it's just that kind of limited mindset of, oh, I know what AI is, or I know what ads are, and so they think that they know it all, and they really don't. Like, yeah, you have a website, but you don't have a single keyword on your website. So when I go and I look up Blythe, but your website doesn't say Blythe anywhere, I'm never gonna get to your website, you know? So it's those little things where I think we need to take a second and listen to all these things that are going on, and we do need to use AI. Like, I was one of those that didn't want to use AI for months and months and months, and now if you don't use it, you're gonna fall behind. You know, I don't have to use it to design, for example, but if my neighbor is using it to design and they have 500 designs a day, and I just chose not to, and I have one design a day, I'm gonna fall behind whether I choose to or not.
It's just a matter of perspective on with a lot of these roles, especially with like social media, just in general, podcasting in general, these roles did not exist.
No.
15, 20 years ago. Like there's some obviously like podcasters that started like in the very early days. Nobody, I don't know if they're around still anymore, but it just, jobs evolve and you have to be able to evolve with it. And so it kind of goes back to that saying of like, you might not get replaced with AI, but somebody who is using AI will replace you.
Exactly.
And
that's a good way to put it.
you're just, you're replaceable. So how do you make yourself like not replaceable? And how do you expand your knowledge set and be that conductor of the orchestra?
Well, that's when they become controllers, and it's like, okay, like, I don't want to learn AI, so I'm not going to change my CRM. So we're always going to use an Excel sheet, and like now you're all screwed. You're all limited to an Excel sheet, and there is no growth until that old guy and his old friends decide to leave. But it's unfortunate, and I say it like that kind of joking because it's serious. I see it all the time, like especially with these, like mom and pop companies or those that, came into a family company and they took over. Like they're scared of change and they're scared of what they don't know. And I get that, if you don't know what AI is, you're not going to bring it in. If you don't know, I don't know, how to use HubSpot, then I'm not going to tell my employees to use HubSpot because now I can't help them. And now they have more control than I do. And it's scary to lose control. But at the same time, you're limiting everything. You're putting a block to it. And unless you release and you kind of check your own ego and you learn like, hey, maybe I should try to change up what I'm doing, then that's when you can maybe see some change.
What are some of the aha moments that you've had like using AI? Like, do you have like a prompt or like a go-to? Like, do you use like ChatGPT projects or anything like that?
I love ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my best friend for everything that I do. I don't know if I would say I'd have a big aha moment, except for when it's just when people say AI and then I kind of bring it to simpler terms, like the way that you're using AI is like literally a robot in Mars, and like we're just talking like simple things here. So like when I was explained for the first time what Vision AI was, they gave me the example of looking at a tree, and the tree had apples on it. And so with the Vision AI, they were able to see which apples are ripe and which apples weren't, and being able to pool it. And that's just simple difference between the color red and the color green. And it's as simple as that. Like it's if you put it in dummy terms like that, it's very simple. And so I think my aha moments are when I can explain to a customer, like, your interpretation of AI is like up here, but what we can do and where we're at today is like down here. So let's start there and then let's, baby step it, and then we can start to see the dream. But technology isn't something that just falls in your lap. It's very customized. Even if you buy a pre-made chatbot agent or whatever, it still needs to be customized into your tech stack. So it takes a long time. So you got to baby step into it.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, but it's a new information era that we're in. And you can learn so many different things, and it doesn't have to be specific to the industry you're working in, or it's just a more efficient way of searching for information is what I found. And it's definitely got me from just staring at a blank page to having something to say. Like the ideation has helped so much. With podcast interviews, like I'll take I'll listen to a bunch of different interviews, like with this one, for example, listen to a bunch of interviews, I write down a bunch of questions, I write down my overall thoughts, and then I load it into ChatGPT and I say, poke holes in this, like what am I missing? And so it's that extra pair of eyes that as a one-person business owner, like it's essential.
Yeah.
I cannot live without it.
I agree. That's one really good point, though. I always ask it and I say, what am I missing? What am I not seeing here? Or if I were X person, what would I ask? And I did this for my thesis specifically, but I do this sometimes with like some troubling questions that a customer asks me, something very intensive and maybe a process that I don't know about. And so I try to play like role playing with ChatGPT, like what would this person ask me? And then I have to like literally answer back, and I put the little voice memo on and I speak to her, you know, and she speaks back to me. She's like, great job, Mia, you know, you answered this really great. I would answer this differently. And like, you're learning so much. It's really crazy. And when you don't have somebody to lean on, maybe like, I can't call my mom and say, hey, let's talk about trucking. Like, you know, she's not gonna get it. So, but
She's gonna hang up.
Maybe, yeah. But I can call ChatGPT at any time of day and be like, let's talk about trucking, and she's gonna be so happy.
All right. Well, I think that about answers. I mean, I had a ton of questions, and I think we oh good, yeah, we hit some really good time. What else do you think is important in this hiring market? Or are people hiring right now? Like, I'm curious as to how the establishment is evolving, given all the chaos with tariffs and supply chain disruptions and trade wars and all that stuff, and then the tech side of things that's just been injected in the last 5 years. All of those positions kind of coming together. Where do you see like sort of like staffing evolving and talent management evolving?
Yeah, for us particularly, I see it growing a lot. Yeah. I see it expanding out of like our stereotypical back office accounting and like operations. I see it growing into like the marketing, the sales, those pricings, or those kinds of more financial areas that we didn't think about in the past. I think it's already happening, and I'm seeing it based off the requests that we're getting. And I think that's really important. Like, people aren't seeing it anymore as like an extra. They're seeing nearshoring and offshoring as a requirement to survive. And so, you know, people aren't coming in with, let me just try this out for a day. It's like, no, I have a legit need. Like, this has been painful for me. I've been looking for options for months now, and like now is the time to do it. So I think that there's a lot of growth and opportunity there. I also think that people are going to start to complement and spread out their eggs, in the sense that they're going to have a partner in Europe and a partner in Asia and a partner in LATAM instead of just having one. And yeah, and I think that a lot of that's been because of what's happened in the last 10 to 15 years. So many of us have popped up that you can't have those limited contracts that say, hey, you can only work with me. And that used to exist. So it was like, hey, you have a partner in Colombia, you can only have one partner in Colombia. And it was very limiting, you know? And now those are becoming more and more far and few. So I think that, again, like that spread your eggs kind of idea and work with multiple partners, because they all have different strengths and they can all complement each other differently. I think that's kind of the future. So that means that we're gonna all have multiple offices, we're gonna have multiple multilingual speakers as well, and hopefully, you know, just be a little bit more worldwide and respectful to each other and kinder.
That is such a perfect place to end the conversation, because it's very hopeful. Like we covered a lot of ground in this conversation. I'm excited for people to hear this. So where can I send folks? Where can they follow you? Obviously LinkedIn, not Facebook groups. Like, where can I send them?
Yes, so talento-io.com, Mia Mazal on LinkedIn, or Mia Mazal on X, or anywhere else, Mia Mazal. Yeah, or just look up Talento, and that's where you can find us.
Yeah, this is great. Long time coming too. Thank you so much
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.